study finds nobody's reading anymore. Well, I could have told you that. This has got a lot of different causes, and we could talk about this, but there's definitely one demographic that's not reading at all because of what's being sold. And I'm going to show you another New York Times thing that as this goes on, what's being sold. And this is pretty obvious that when you tell half the population, men, that there are no books for you, that you're not going to be able to read anything whatsoever, well, they're just not going to read. That's pretty simple. Now, I have a new book coming out on Thursday, and I haven't actually announced it anywhere except for just briefly kind of on my live stream, which I wasn't talking about. But I am writing my first nonfiction book. And this is called Churchianity, How Modern American Churches Corrupted Generations of Christians. It is a treatise on social justice. It's a treatise on just the way that modernism corrupts things. And it's a treatise on the anti-prosperity doctrine. I don't know if you know what that is, but you'll learn about that in here if you don't. Now, it's a very, very poignant book for our times. I got a foreword from Vox Day, a #1 political philosophy writer. And this is going to be coming out on Thursday. So you can pre-order it right now. I'm going to put this in the description below. And if you click on my name on here, you'll see I have a lot of science fiction and fantasy books that many men will enjoy, and women will enjoy too. I try to write something for everybody. And that's what the mainstream industry is not doing. That's the main crux of what's going on right here. And so as they complain and go, what's going on? Well, I could tell you what's going on. There's that, and I'll show you in just a moment. Thank you guys for supporting. I'm very excited for this book. I'm nervous about it because this is way out of my wheelhouse. Like, as I said, I'm normally a science fiction and fantasy writer, but I am trying to, of course, do the Lord's work here and see if we can, stir revival in our country again. It's very important stuff, and I appreciate you being here. And if you're a non-Christian, I hope you'll check it out and actually read it and just see what you think about this. I'd love to hear from the non-Christians reading this, what their thoughts on my call to return to tradition. Love to hear from all of you. Thank you for being here. All right, so here's our study that takes another stab to determine how much or how little Americans read has been released. A new report looked at how reading for pleasure and reading with children fared between 2003 and 2023, found that only 16% of adults read for pleasure on a given day in 2023. I'm one of those 16%. The lowest rate of any year in the survey, down roughly 40% from 2003. So it was almost double in 2003. And, of course, the study found that reading for pleasure fell by 3% annually between these years. Well, if you've ever been to a bookstore, I can tell you right now, there's no books for men anymore. There's no books that men really want to read anymore. That's a big problem. And this is both in fiction and nonfiction. It's all geared towards women's self-help, or it's all geared towards something that I'm going to show you in just a second, where these women are devouring these disgusting books, and they're mainstream now. And it's just a train wreck. If you didn't watch my video yesterday on the Romantasy convention and just how disgusting it is, go watch that right now. This is a very important video that you should watch as well. It's just showing how it's just normalizing degeneracy around women, and that's what the book industry's become all the way around. On top of this, I've been involved in the publishing industry for some time. Publishers, agents will not publish white males. They just won't do it. And on top of that, they are requiring people to put in BIPOC themes, LGBTQ themes into all their books and the like, or they won't publish it. Again, you're trying to get 1% of the population or less represented, and then so 99% of the population goes, I don't really want to read that. Pretty obvious, the content that they're putting out is not servicing people, and that's exactly why we do things independently over here, and I'm glad you've found my community here. Hope you'll stick around. Appreciate it. But these results are based on 236,000 individuals, which is kind of crazy. That's a lot. And so that's a significant sample size on this level. Now, this is that only 48% of adults read one or more books for pleasure in 2022. Just one book out of the whole year. Absolutely crazy stuff. This should tell people a few things. Now, naturally, there's a lot going on. The internet's got people just hooked on social media as well, which is a problem. Hi. Watching video content's, of course, gone a lot up, and people are relaxing in those ways. And AI is actually making that worse, as people are just hanging around on ChatGPT or Grok or whatever, asking it questions rather than reading. Pretty interesting on that level. So those things are all going on too, but definitely the content that they're putting out is a problem as well. Now, this came out in the New York Times at the exact same times. Why magic, dragons, and explicit sex are in bookstores everywhere. Look at this, and it's non-judgmental. They're not saying this is disgusting and degenerate. They should be, but this is what is out there. You cannot walk into a bookstore, and I got an 11-year-old boy, And all the stuff in the fantasy sections, this crazy woman smut, which is out there, which is creepy. It's like it'll be about a werewolf, like, using the protagonist woman as a sex slave, but she loves it. I mean, it's nasty stuff, and they're very, very explicit about it, guys. And it's winning awards. This book won the Nebula Award this year. It's called A Person to Build a Nest In, and it's like this monster person who like kidnaps a young girl and like has a lesbian relationship with her. It's very, very weird. And they're giving it awards. They're clapping for it. The New York Times is writing it up, and they're not judging it. Like, I mean, they should be judging it and should be shaming this out there and getting real fiction back into stores again. Otherwise, we're never going to be able to get anywhere. So here it is. Simona Stallone clicked on Harry Potter fan fiction and tumbled down a rabbit hole. And she says she keeps seeing posts about Dramini all over her feed. People on TikTok were raving about stories set in the world of Harry Potter written by fans, imagined a romance between Hermione and Draco Malfoy. As Harry Potter enthusiast, she who had always thought J.K. Rowling should have put them together, Miss Stallone was primed to become a Dramini addict. These people are crazy. Lying next to her sleeping boyfriend, she clicked a Manacled, a dark fantasy set in an alternate universe where Harry Potter is dead, evil wizard Voldemort has triumphed. The story centered around illicit, morally ambiguous romance between Hermione. It's porn, okay? Let's just call it what it is. A vicious executioner who holds Hermione captive as a prisoner of war. It had familiar elements from Harry Potter, but with a delicious twist. Listen to this is the New York Times. What's wrong with these people? The characters were older and a lot hotter. They were cast in a decidedly more adult scenarios. And this became her, quote, whole personality. This became the woman's whole personality, who's reading this while her boyfriend's sleeping. This is disgusting. I was consumed by the book. Defined my life before and after Manacled. Before you know, some people are acting like before Christ. Look at this. They're replacing God with this crap. This is crazy. She got tattoos of this. This is a really terrible thing. And this is where these women are going at this point. Now, this is everything. So what happens from things like this? And the original one that did this was actually from Twilight. If you guys remember the Twilight books, and there was a book called and it was on the internet just like this. It was called they literally called it Master of the Universe. It was not a He-Man story. But it was the Twilight people engaged in like these weird bondage situations. And that eventually got so popular as a fan fiction that it was bought by a publisher. And this woman rebranded it, took out the names Bella and Edward and Jacob, changed the names, and then resold it as 50 Shades of Grey. And that's where all of this started. And so you can see the collapse of bookstores and the collapse of reading from this point where these women got involved in this kind of thing, and that's where all this came, and that's where all these women are getting out of control at this point. And as you can see, it's just like tearing apart society. Like I said, watch my video yesterday. It's so important on that Romantasy. It's called Sinners and Stardust. You can search that on my channel if you're watching this later. But here it is. I made my hyperfixation everyone's problem. I talked about the book nonstop. I made every single person in my life read Manacled. This is deranged. And no wonder nobody's reading for pleasure, right? No wonder it's all collapsing at this point. Who would want to engage with this whatsoever? It's creepy. And so this is where it's going. This is where the entire industry is going. The New York Times is celebrating it at this point. Rather than actually pushing like real literature and things like that, like the Times used to do, this is where they've gone because this is the only people who work for the Times anymore. And so, yes, men aren't reading because they don't produce anything for men anymore. They don't produce good works anymore. And that's where we're at as a society. Oh my gosh, crazy stuff. But there is a way forward. It's all independent fiction at this point and independent books, and that's the way that we're going to do things. And we have to, of course, make our own communities here. I'm glad you're here. I've got a newsletter in the description below if you want to stay in touch. I've got a Discord server filled with some great people who love to read. We have a lot of reading community. And I'd love for you to pre-order my Churchianity. It's going to be out Thursday, my first nonfiction book, and I hope you'll enjoy that, my friends. So leave a comment down below. What can we do to fix it? What can we do to get people reading? I guess we have to proselytize reading a little bit. Appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you so much for pre-ordering this and making it a success, and we'll be back soon.